Why would you recommend GNOME for beginners? GNOME just lacks features. Ugh, GNOME for gaming is subpar. Extensions always break when you update.
GNOME versus KDE debate while XFCE is still the GOAT is funny.
Alright, it's time that we talk about GNOME. It's no secret that KDE Plasma has become the desktop environment most Linux beginners, enthusiasts and especially gamers gravitate towards. And objectively speaking, it's not really surprising. Out of the box, it comes with a familiar Windows-like layout, a traditional start menu, a big variety of inbuilt customization options, a development pace that constantly brings new features and performance improvements, and is heavily promoted by gaming distros. However, whenever GNOME is mentioned as one, if not the best option for beginners, you can always count on criticism, especially when it comes to the use of extensions and installing additional apps to change settings. But does GNOME really need extensions or tweaks to function properly? What is their design philosophy? And ultimately, is it really worse than KDE Plasma? Let's talk about it. Before we get into GNOME's out-of-the-box experience, I think it's a good time to talk about standards and defaults. Because on Linux, things can get a little complicated. By standards, I mean the way a desktop environment is intended to look, feel and behave. In other words, how applications are supposed to integrate, how animations work, what features are built into the desktop itself, and even lower level things such as Wayland protocols, for example. Highly technical. Defaults, on the other hand, are determined by the distribution. Ubuntu ships GNOME differently from Fedora. Zorin OS ships it differently again. Fonts, themes, icons, layouts and pre-installed applications can all vary significantly, depending on the distro. But despite all of these differences, the underlying GNOME standard is still there. And that distinction will become a lot more important later on. Let's take a look at GNOME, how it comes out of the box on a distro like Fedora that basically ships GNOME as intended. Out of the box, you immediately notice quite a difference if you have been used to a Windows layout before. The overview that hides the dash with pinned apps at the bottom, the workspaces which can be scrolled between, the black top bar that toggles set overview, the calendar with the time and date placed in the middle, and the quick settings menu on the right. Ironically, while that might seem less intuitive at first, purely objectively speaking, that is as easy as it can get. Because technically the user has only 3 choices where to click. Its settings are optimized to expose just enough settings for the user to change while not being overwhelmed. And in comparison to KDE Plasma, it shows. GNOME is a highly standardized desktop and has many first-party applications that integrate with the desktop. For example, the file manager, calendar and contacts are all connected in some way. And if you use the online accounts feature to log into, let's say, your Nextcloud, Google or Microsoft account, you can access your resources in all those apps, no matter the version of GNOME you have. However, when it comes to defaults and settings, now it becomes a bit more complicated. Many don't like everything that GNOME once included in their standard. Things like missing minimize and maximize buttons, the management of auto-starting apps if an application does not support it natively, or just adjusting the zoom of your wallpaper requires an application called GNOME Tweaks. An application that is not pre-installed on Fedora. Those settings are considered advanced settings by GNOME. If they actually are advanced, that's subjective. Heck, I got used to GNOME that much that I don't even bother to enable the minimize and maximize buttons anymore, because on the stock configuration you really don't need them. But if GNOME is so easy to use and intuitive, what's the problem with extensions? Well, we need to differentiate between preferences and general improvements that many just take for granted nowadays. Let's start off with the preferences. While many like the simplicity and integration that the GNOME desktop comes with, they might still not like the user interface and prefer a panel or dock to manage their applications. In combination, they might also prefer the minimize and maximize buttons, because now it makes sense. So they need an extension manager, GNOME Tweaks and the official settings app. Okay, that's fine I guess, but not ideal. And then there are the genuine improvements that many just take for granted, like the clipboard history. Someone might criticize GNOME for not having that basic feature, whilst it is technically an advanced use case. App Indicator is another one of the most commonly used GNOME extensions. Some people consider it essential, others don't. Personally, I like that it shows all background applications rather than just some Flatpaks, but I could still use GNOME without it. While extensions could occasionally break on updates, sometimes because they just need to be marked as compatible with the new GNOME version, or other times because they genuinely break because of changes, the extension system itself is still officially supported. I see GNOME more like this is the standard baseline. This is what will work like it should, and everything else is up to you to build upon. On KDE Plasma, it's often the opposite. You get so many customization options out of the box that you might actually want to disable some stuff that you don't actively use. I can guarantee you that I haven't even looked at most of KDE Plasma settings, because I don't really need to. It's a completely different design philosophy, and if something is not yet implemented in GNOME because extensions exist, there is often no rush to implement a new feature. Like, GNOME wants background apps to be visible, and they already have their own integration. Is it good? Well, it's not really like the old one, and I hope that it improves, but frankly, I don't really have to care because of extensions. I want the feature to extend my desktop upon its baseline, and I consider this to be a part of a regular customization process. I don't think that GNOME is built for tablets or unusable without extensions. And even if extensions wouldn't exist and I couldn't get my goodies like the clipboard history, I don't think my mindset would change much. Maybe I wouldn't use it personally then, but many others could, no problem. What you get is a desktop that works really well with a mouse and keyboard, has good movement and keyboard shortcuts like the hot corners or ability to super key and scroll switch workspaces, easy access to the most basic settings, and the very integrated set of default applications that plain just work. But it's no silver bullet, because use cases and preferences are different. GNOME, for example, does currently have no way to adjust the scrolling speed on your mouse. Do I need it? No, not at all. My scrolling feels completely fine. But if you need it, then that's a problem. Should it still be a feature? Absolutely, out of the question. But all that I'm saying is that poor scrolling behavior does not mean unusable. GNOME's philosophy is more on the implement once right and keep it that way side, while Plasma is more on the implement now, fix later track. Okay, that's actually not really a fair comparison, but essentially both ways to integrate things are valid approaches. So, is GNOME really unusable without extensions? Of course not, but it definitely might differ from what you expect, which features you take for granted, and just how your preferences are. I personally prefer a baseline, and for me that just happens to be GNOME. But tastes are different, and I would be really interested in what you have to say about all that. Do you think that GNOME lacks essential features that you'd like to use? And if so, what are they? Please let us know in the comment section down below. If you've liked this video, then please make sure to show it with a like, and also don't forget to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on any future Linux videos just like this one. I hope that I get to see you again really soon, but in the meantime, all that's left to say now is good morning, good afternoon or good evening, wherever you are. I'll see you around.